Imagine the deafening roar of urban combat in the shattered concrete ruins of Berlin in 1945. You are holding your breath, pressing your back against a cold brick wall, perfectly covering a blind 90-degree corner. Suddenly, a violent burst of heavy 7.92mm gunfire erupts, tearing through the masonry just inches from your helmet. You instinctively look for the shooter, but your mind completely struggles to process the geometry of the ambush. There is absolutely no enemy soldier leaning out from cover. There is no distinct muzzle flash visible down the narrow alleyway. The deadly stream of fully automatic gunfire is quite literally curving entirely around a solid brick wall to find you. This is not a scene ripped from a modern science fiction film. It was a highly experimental, desperately bizarre tactical reality of late World War II German engineering. When you study the brutal history of close-quarters urban combat, specifically the catastrophic meat-grinder environments of Stalingrad, you immediately realize that traditional infantry tactics were fundamentally broken. If a soldier needed to lay down suppressive fire down a long hallway, shoot over a high trench, or clear a blind corner, physics strictly dictated that they had to physically expose their head, neck, and shoulders to establish a line of sight. The casualty rates for simply looking around a corner were absolutely staggering. The German High Command urgently demanded a mechanical solution. They wanted a specialized device that allowed a frontline infantryman or a trapped tank crew member to fire a fully automatic weapon completely blind, aggressively sweeping corners while remaining 100% protected behind hard, impenetrable cover. The ultimate, highly convoluted mechanical answer was the Krummlauf. Translating directly from German to curved barrel, it was an aggressively over-engineered, heavy steel attachment designed to be securely bolted directly onto the muzzle of the revolutionary Sturmgewehr 44 assault rifle. I am Dr. James Hoffer, a military historian and firearms technology specialist. We frequently examine the legendary weapons that revolutionized modern combat on this channel, but today we are looking at a spectacular, physics-defying failure. We are examining an attachment that successfully broke the line of sight, but ultimately destroyed the very rifle it was attached to. Let us dive straight into the violent mechanics of forcing a supersonic bullet to drive around a sharp bend. From a pure engineering perspective, you cannot simply bend a heavy steel pipe, thread it onto a high-powered rifle, and expect a lead bullet to cleanly travel through it. A standard STG-44 projectile leaves the chamber traveling at roughly 2,200 feet per second. When a solid, metallic mass moving at that blistering velocity suddenly encounters a 30-degree or 90-degree curve in a steel barrel, the immediate physical friction generated is absolutely astronomical. The heavy bullet desperately wants to continue traveling in a perfectly straight line. As it violently slams into the outer interior curve of the Krummlauf attachment, the internal chamber pressure immediately spikes to catastrophic levels. Without a dedicated release valve, the entire steel attachment, and likely the front half of the rifle itself, would instantly and violently detonate like a pressurized pipe bomb directly in the shooter's hands. To prevent the weapon from simply exploding upon the first pull of the trigger, German ordnance engineers had to meticulously drill a series of deep, strategic relief vents directly into the rear base of the curved attachment. These precise vents were designed to rapidly bleed off the massive, expanding gas pressure the absolute millisecond before the bullet hit the heavy curve. Furthermore, to actually allow the soldier to aim this bizarre contraption, they bolted a highly complex, incredibly heavy periscope mirror sight directly behind the curve. An infantryman could sit completely cross-legged behind a thick brick wall, comfortably look through the periscope to see exactly what was around the corner, and squeeze the trigger to unleash 30 rounds of automatic fire without ever exposing a single inch of flesh. There were primarily two distinct tactical variations developed for the battlefield. The asterisk Vorsat I, designed specifically for the infantry, featured a relatively shallow 30-degree bend. But the vastly more extreme variation was the asterisk Vorsat P, specifically engineered for panzer crews. Massive German tank destroyers like the Ferdinand and the Elephant were notoriously built entirely without hull-mounted machine guns. This fatal design flaw allowed Soviet infantry squads to easily sprint through the vehicle's blind spots, climb directly onto the armored roof, and drop high explosives right down the crew hatches. The 90-degree Krummlauf was desperately designed to be shoved up through a tiny roof port, allowing the trapped tank crew to furiously hose down the exterior hull of their own vehicle to sweep away the attacking infantry. But physics always, inevitably, collects its toll. The sheer mechanical reality of violently forcing a copper-jacketed lead bullet around a sharp steel curve had absolutely devastating consequences for both the ammunition and the weapon itself. The bullets were subjected to such massive centrifugal force, immense heat, and crushing friction that they frequently could not survive the journey. As they traveled through the bend, the extreme stress would physically rip the bullets apart. By the time the projectile actually exited the muzzle of the Krummlauf, it was rarely a precision aerodynamic rifle bullet anymore. It was a jagged, unpredictable, tumbling swarm of high-velocity metallic shrapnel. From a strict tactical standpoint, this violent fragmentation was actually somewhat acceptable and even beneficial for clearing a cramped, crowded urban room or aggressively sweeping soft targets off a tank hull. It effectively turned a precision assault rifle into a highly lethal, fully automatic trench shotgun. The true fatal flaw of the Krummlauf was not its accuracy or its fragmentation, it was its absolutely abysmal logistical lifespan. The terrifying friction did not just destroy the copper bullets, it aggressively consumed the heavy steel barrel itself. Battlefield reports, captured documents, and extensive post-war testing by the Allies revealed that the extreme internal wear and tear would completely strip the rifling smooth and dangerously thin out the outer wall of the curve in a matter of minutes. The maximum operational lifespan of a standard 30-degree infantry Krummlauf was a pitiful 300 rounds. That is exactly 10 standard magazines before the heavy steel attachment warped, cracked open, or completely failed. The 90-degree tank versions suffered an even worse fate, completely destroying themselves in an astonishingly brief 160 rounds. Producing highly complex, incredibly delicate periscope optics and precisely milled, vented steel attachments that entirely destroyed themselves after just 5 minutes of sustained combat was a staggering logistical nightmare. By late 1944 and early 1945, the German war machine was rapidly collapsing under the sheer weight of Allied bombing. Steel was precious, and highly skilled manufacturing time was practically non-existent. Diverting vital resources to manufacture a disposable, self-destructing barrel attachment was the absolute peak of desperate, highly misdirected wartime engineering. The Krummlauf stands today as a fascinating, bizarre mechanical footnote in the history of the Second World War. It represents a highly creative, aggressive engineering solution to a very real tactical nightmare, completely unhindered by common sense or logistical reality. It successfully broke the line of sight, but it ultimately could not beat the brutal, uncompromising laws of physics. Let me know in the comments down below what other bizarre World War II weapons you think were a complete waste of manufacturing resources. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into historical battlefield engineering, and I will see you in the next one.